Hey guys, I'm back. I know that I've been not very consistent about posting videos, and honestly the biggest thing holding me back is just fear. I've been so afraid of what people will think. And as a YouTuber, it's hard to stop looking at the analytics and obsessing over the numbers and watching the unsubscribes and getting worried about those numbers. I know that this is a drastic change for my channel to be changing topics like this, but I know that the people who are sticking around, the subscribers who are staying, want to be here. The truth is that behind every number is an actual person. I think about the channels that I love, and if they post a video that changes my life, I am just one view on that person's video. But if that video changes my life and then I go on to share that information with other people, it's actually a drop in the water that creates a ripple effect. So that's really my intention with creating these videos, that whether you're a Mormon and you're finding out this information for the first time, or you've never even heard of Mormons and something in these videos is just resonating with you and the things that you've been through in your life, that's why I'm doing it. So in this video, I want to talk about something that needs to be talked about when you find out that the religion of your childhood was not true. It is one of the most devastating things that can happen to you in your life, because as a Mormon, it wasn't something that I just did. My religion and my relationship with God was everything to me. It was my entire identity. It was my whole life. So when I left that religion, not only did I lose the church, the friends, the loved ones who were part of that church, but it felt like my entire life ended, because it was everything. It was my entire life, and it ended. I don't know if you've seen The Matrix, but finding out my church wasn't true is like that moment when he wakes up and gets out of this tub of goo and realizes that his body has been in there this entire time that he thought he was living on the earth, and everything that was happening to him was actually just happening digitally in his head. It really is just like that moment. I mean, there are just no words to describe the devastation and the trauma that you feel. Because I've experienced the loss of a child and the grief that comes along with that, I can honestly tell you that leaving my religion, I went through the same grieving process, in the sense that my entire life just blew up and everything just kept going as normal. And you're sitting here trying to pick everything up from the ashes and wondering, how can you go on as if everything's normal and nothing happened? It's been 3 years since I left the Mormon church, and it honestly, that loss of relationship with God, it doesn't just disappear. It's kind of like losing not only a best friend, but somebody that knows you better than you know yourself, somebody that you turn to for every problem, somebody that you talk to on a daily basis, somebody that was, the entire reason for your existence, that you loved with all of your heart. And not only losing that friend, but then finding out that the friend never actually existed in the way that you thought they did, and it was all in your head. There's just no way to describe that kind of loss. After 3 years of sort of grieving this loss of God and trying to sort out what everything is and isn't, what was true, what wasn't, it still hurts. Every day I'm trying to sort out my new beliefs. Every day I'm looking for something to explain what happened to me. I'm looking for something to explain those questions, those, who am I, where did I come from? All the questions that the Mormon church answered for me, I no longer have answers for. And that's why it's so easy for people to stay in a religion and have all the answers. And it's the brave thing to do, to let that go and to be in a place of understanding that we don't have the answers. But this longing that we have for God, the feeling of devastation and loss over losing that relationship, it continues on today. Some days it moves me to tears because it hurts so much. So a few nights ago, it was one of those times where I just missed having that God in my life, having that inner guidance and comfort and help. So I had this dream that I was just desperate to feel the loving light, the loving arms of God around me, just giving me a hug, just saying that everything was going to be okay. But the feeling that I had in the dream was just this intense longing and wanting and needing this, and this just feeling of frustration that I wasn't getting it, and just a sort of a childlike temper tantrum and just anger and just desperation of wanting this feeling. And as the dream ended and I was just feeling this utter disappointment, I had this realization start to creep in that I already had this feeling of contentment, of love, of peace, of comfort inside of me all along, and that I have an infinite amount of this love and light and peace, and that it's not this resource that we're just desperate to have and to find and to steal and to get from somebody, but it's this infinite well that's inside of us already that we can just continually give and would never run out of it. And as I woke up thinking about all of these things, thinking about, do dreams have meaning? Is this all in my head too? I pulled up YouTube, and one of the channels that I follow had posted this picture with a quote that talked about how we're constantly seeking for love and happiness from outside sources that seem to trigger it in us. But it's always been that the love and happiness that we feel always comes from within us. And so we see the trigger as being the source of the love and happiness when we are actually the source. And then right underneath this picture in this quote, I see a comment from somebody who said that they just woke up from having a profound dream and then saw this picture. And it just confirmed what they had dreamed about. So this was a type of synchronicity that I will never forget. And when I was in the church and I would pray about things to God, you know that worry that you have in your head, like, oh, is this just me? Is that just my voice? And you think that like it would be a bad thing if it was just your own inner voice talking, because you want it to be coming from outside of you. But what if the truth is that it's been you all along, and that that's a good thing? Something really significant happened to me at the end of my time in Mormonism. I was taking this sort of self-help class by Outlook Development, and they were teaching us this concept called your inner goober and your inner guru. And so you would start out by sitting in one chair and just sort of unloading all of your problems, and then you would switch to the other chair and you would just let your higher self come through and talk to that other part of you, and as if you were talking to a loved one or a friend, and giving them advice on what to do. And as I did this at home, I discovered that there was this amazing inner voice inside of me that was so compassionate and loving and wise and had some really great advice that I just never listened to before. And not only that, but I had always just imagined that I had this inner bully in my head that was just always rude to me and always criticizing me and just making me feel bad, and this sort of negative self-talk. But finding out that I also had this other kind, gentle, compassionate voice in me that was just super validating to me and just treated me as a loved one, I felt like, wow, I feel like God just was speaking through me. And after I left the church, there were times that I tried to pray. And one of the times I said, you know what? This voice that's been inside my head all along, I know that it's still there. And so whatever that voice is, I still want to talk to it and rely on it. After I left the church, there was this beautiful exercise that I learned how to do with your emotions when you're going through a really hard time. What the exercise taught me was that if you look at your emotions as this innocent child trying to tell you something, an innocent child with a problem, then you will feel this higher part of you, this higher self, this parent inside of you, just wanting to give that little child a hug, wanting to comfort it, wanting to say everything's gonna be okay. And that inner voice, that inner parent in you is your higher self. That's the voice that we've given to this third party, and they've told you that it comes from outside of you, that it comes from God. I would venture to say that that inner voice that you have inside of you, that is just a well of compassion and love for others, you can offer it to yourself. That this is self-love, that this inner voice is what we call God, that you are a God seed. The seed of a plant has the entire plant inside of it, and that's what you are. You're a tiny seed that has everything you need inside of you. Discovering that inner voice, it's almost looked down on in our world, like, oh, don't rely on yourself, don't trust in yourself, you have to trust in God. It's prideful to think that that higher voice might just be you. So at the same time, religion tries to teach you to love yourself. They're blocking this incredible tool for self-love, and that is allowing your higher self and your inner voice to come through and to speak to you and to give you the love and the comfort and the validation that you need. I hope that these videos are resonating with you and what you've been through in your life. Thanks so much for sticking around. Thanks so much for watching these videos, and I will see you in the next video.